Hello everyone, welcome back to the Women's Podcast here on NFTV. We are in Wales End, Costa, thanks to your lovely host, Joe.
Yes, indeed, this is the Costa that I work at and I am always dancing and singing about. A couple of my regulars said hello to her and whatnot. It's a lovely little venue and we're just nice and cosy in the back corner. What are so? Aye, thank you, Costa. Thank you, Katie. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Ears all. Curtis, shut up.
Yes, shut up. So we are back, everyone. We have Josh with us as well.
Hello.
From the States. He's obviously seen a couple of games, and he's also seen the one on Sunday as well.
Yes.
I'm going to throw a historical question at you. Why is it called Wall's End? Do you know?
Is it where the wall ended?
You on the right terms? Yeah. The Romans? Yeah. When they
The
built that
Hadrian Wall.
That's it. Spot on. Nailed it. Not difficult, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, well done on that. So we have a lot to talk about. The first half of the show, we're going to talk about the last two games. We've got the Who Am I as well. So get your answers in. And, of course, then we're going to have a little reflection on why we support the women, why we do it, all that kind of good stuff as well. But have a look at Stocks FC, our sponsor. Roll VT.
Stocks FC football stock trade. Earn cash when your players perform in real games. Click on our QR code, which you can see all the way through the video, or the top of the description. There's a link. You can claim 5 free loans from us. You can buy and sell football player stocks. You can build a portfolio of your favourite players and earn weekly, monthly and end of season rewards in cash. Download Stocks FC with our QR code.
So make sure you hit that QR code. It's either underneath George, underneath me. I don't know which way I put it. But scan that and you can get yourself 5 free loans. You've got some, haven't you? You've got Isaac. I can't believe that you were telling me.
Well, Isaac, Phil Foden, Diaz, Etsy and Son. Quite impressed having Isaac, obviously, with the form that he's on. Hopefully give us a little bit of money from that. But no, it's great, the stocks thing. It's quite fun as well, you know, like I've done actual stocks and trading in the past before and it's so boring looking at analytics, watching this. And with this stocks thing, all you have to do is watch a game of football. I mean, that's horrible to do, isn't it? Lovely. Definitely get yourselves involved in it. Your 5 free loans are well worth it. And if you get someone like Isaac, like me, shit, yeah.
I think you're very lucky. It's like opening a FIFA pack.
It is. Yeah.
You've got all them stars there. I couldn't believe that. I got Chong from Luton. I got Ben Tonker on my free ones. I can't remember the other ones. I got rid of them pretty quick. But I have got a lot of investment in stocks as well. But do check that out. So clue 1, we're going to go straight to it. We've got 3 clues for you. And you've got to try and guess the player. I don't think Joe and you know, but you've seen clue 3, haven't you?
Yeah.
You've seen clue 3, so you'll probably get it by the second one. So clue 1, who am I? When I was a child, I had to play in a boys' team. So there's your first clue. So remember what we do this could be an ex-player. It could be a current player. It could be an ex-staff member. It could be a fan that's well known. But the first clue is when I was a child, I had to play in a boys' team. So
I know this, I'm certain I know this and I can't find the name. I'm a little bit under the weather and I'm struggling to, like, simple terms are just a struggle at first at the minute. And I know I've heard this story very, very closely and a few times. I should know who it is.
Don't reveal if you do. You got any idea?
I don't, but I'm like him. I feel like for some reason I've actually heard this in passing somewhere that one of the current players, but I'm not sure.
We'll come back to that later. Then, right, we're going to go back to Joe's going to take over a little bit on the second game where me and Josh went down Sheffield United. But I want to talk about the Forest game because you were there. Obviously, I was at the FA Cup game for Bromley. A lot of chat with Naomi and Bridget, wasn't there, returning?
Yeah.
Did they mingle with the Newcastle fans?
Oh, massively so. Mind I will say about Naomi, and this just speaks heights about her professionalism. Before the match, she was almost, in the nicest way here, she was almost ignoring the Geordies. And I think it was just to keep her head in the game. Not let her get into her head, not let her emotions, you know how much Naomi Badou loved Newcastle. She loved being here, she loved the fans. And I feel like she was just trying to block it out a bit until after the game. After the game, she had all the hellos, we had all sorts to all the fans. Bridget from the get-go. And I feel like Bridget was always quite nervous. Persona for us and for many fans. She was quite nervous about like people wanting pictures and stuff, and she was so good to the fans. And the couple of times she's popped up to see where it's been fantastic, and honestly it was really nice to see them back at Kingston Park, even on the opposition side. But yeah, no, it was lovely the way they were still interacting and they weren't really letting the new team shy them away from our fans. They know where they were given a lot of love, and they certainly paid that back when they could. So yeah, it was nice to see Bridget and Non back. It really was, and I hope it's not the last time. I really do.
Yeah, and Josh, it was a long time to wait for a game, wasn't it? Because they had a massive break. They had obviously a cancellation with one of the games in December, and it was like almost 6 weeks? It was, wasn't it? It was nearly 6 week wait. And is that a thing that with the authorities they need to improve that with the scheduling of women's football? Because you can't have start the season off late, have a ton of games, then have a big massive gap, and then play a few and have another gap. It's not right, is it?
Yeah, it seems a little less than ideal. I think a lot of the past two games, we can see it. There's a little bit of rust in the legs and getting back up to speed. I'm sure Becky had them training and they were doing their things, but still, it's human nature, especially over the holidays. You're going to enjoy time with family and things like that. So it's easy to lose that half a yard or so, if you will.
Lineups. We were keeping an eye on it, weren't we, who was going to be back from injury. In all honesty, though, who was?
We said, Lee, before the break, that it was going to be a beneficial break for Newcastle. Wow, that backfired, didn't it? We had more injuries. We had the shortest lineup and subs list that I think I've ever seen for Newcastle United Women. We had 3 outfield players on the bench, and one of them was not fully fit, Jazz McQuaid.
Eva, wasn't it?
Eva Chapman, Jazz McQuaid, and
Two keepers.
We had the 2 keepers, Hawkins and Donnelly. I'm trying to think who a third substitute was as well, outfield player.
Well, Eva came on, made her debut, didn't it?
Yeah,
It was great to see.
Great little debut as well for such a flat game as well, which we'll get into. Eva came on, she gave a bit of magic, a bit of spark. She really gave that for me. She gave what Jazz McQuaid was given last season. Every time Jazz came on, she give that bright spark. She put something new into the air. Breath of fresh air, I think the terminology is. And Eva really did that, but it was worrying seeing that lineup, especially against such a bogey team like Nottingham Forest. Such a short lineup, no subs to be really used. You were worried walking into it, and it was a complete opposite of what we thought. We thought it would have been a great break for us, get some players back, Furness, Potsy, Beth Lumsden, maybe get them back on, even if they're just on the subs bench. But like I say, it was the shortest subs bench I've ever seen at Newcastle United Women, which was a shame, and the break just didn't pay off for us. It's been worse for us, if anything.
And obviously, we didn't see the game because obviously I was at the Bromley one, but we would have had an eye on it, Josh, as well. The 1-1-0, it took a while to break down, but I think relief was just get through, go out the next round.
Yeah, unfortunately, I wasn't able to catch it either, but that's a lot of the synopsis I heard was it was just one of those slog through, and then they finally managed to get that. I think it was later in the game, was it not? Yeah. When they finally, I think it was Jazz, was it?
Yeah, beautiful goal.
Yeah. So, listen, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how you win. The win is all that matters, especially because that was also a cup game, right? So, in the cups, just how you stay. I mean, think back to the men for a second, at opening round against Nottingham Forest. It wasn't beautiful, but we got through it, and now you're 2 games away from maybe hoisting a cup. So it doesn't matter how you get through, as long as you get through.
Joe, what was the game like? Because I don't think you had glowing references afterwards, did you?
Nah, it was flat.
It was getting through. That's
it's literally what Josh explained there. It was one of those where if either team had just that little bit more, whatever you want to call it, enthusiasm, wherewithal, chemistry, whatever, on the day, that team would have dominated 2 or 3-0. Neither team was in it. Forest or us, we just both had weak games. It was one of those football matches where there's only going to be one goal that separates both sides. It was hard. It was scrappy. It wasn't really a high-end cup game, which I think everyone thought it would be, with Forest sort of being the team we were last season. They're top of the table. They're smashing teams. They're looking like they're guaranteed for promotion, just like we were last season. And we're doing all right in the Women's Championship, and you would think, right, this is going to be quite a star-studded display. And it was very opposite. Neither team seemed like they wanted it. Maybe both teams were suffering with illnesses. Forest, yes, did have a game prior to that, whereas we didn't for, like you say, 4 or 5 weeks. maybe that's what's done it to us, is the lack of game time, finding that extra half a yard, as Josh said. We just weren't in it fully, but neither were Forest, and I think that's what's paid off for and allowed we to sneak a goal in. And regardless, it was always going to either be a really scrappy, just knocking over the line goal, or was going to be an absolute worldie. And I mean, who better to score a worldie than Jazz McQuaid? Swagger like Jazz, she will often joke about it, and I think in her career for the first team, there's probably only been about 2 of her goals that have been tap-ins. Every other goal that she scores is outside the box or the edge of the box, and it's an absolute screamer. And that was no difference. She came on, and bear in mind as well, Jazz was ill. Jazz was unwell. She wasn't fully fit, and she came on. She just went, "Yeah, I saw this. I can't be bothered." Bang, hammer a goal in, bounces off the bar, just gets over the line, and everyone's buzzing. And then the game just sort of settled back down again, and you knew that one goal had won the game. And
Just see it out.
yeah, just see it out. Defend, hold your tactics well. Couple of substitutions, like you say, Eva Chapman comes on. She was probably the brightest spark of the game, which you wouldn't expect considering she's just coming up from the devs, and that's our first team debut. You wouldn't expect it, but she came on. She instantly won with a corner. She made a couple of attacking presses that really give her a bit of joy and a bit of sprite in the game going forward. And it was just a matter of seeing the game out, which we did, and we did effectively, for lack of better wording. If I broke it down, it'd be disappointing the way we've done it, but do you know what? We've seen it out, and we got through to the next round, which, like Josh said, it's all that matters. It's all that matters.
It is that all that matters. And you spoke to Becky and Jazz. Let's have a little look at what they said.
Easy little goals by Jazz McQuaid. No too special from Jazz, was it?
Yeah, I have to say I disagree. It was a fantastic strike. Moment of quality that unlocked the door for us, and sent us through with a 1-0 win. So delighted for Jazz. It was a brilliant strike, and fantastic to get the result.
We are with Jazz McQuaid, swagger like Jazz, absolute baller. Now Jazz came out in the second half there, and a nice little tap in, wasn't it, Jazz?
It was quite similar to the one against Portsmouth, where I just tapped it in.
Getting through the next round, definitely the most important thing. Now, a lot of talking points over in the stands there was it was quite a light lineup. Now, we know we're holding a few injuries at the moment, obviously, but is that also a sign of things to come? New players on the horizon, do we think?
Yeah, we're disappointed with some of the injuries we've picked up, but there's quite a few girls returning back from injury. So we've seen at the start of the game, you'd have seen Vernie and Sophie Hayward doing some work with the sports science staff, who are close to coming back, which is positive. But we've obviously sent Georgia on loan. Casey's moved on now, so we're a little light on numbers, but at the same time, we're excited that we're bringing in a few players. We've got one of them here today who's cup tied and hasn't been announced yet, and then we've got a couple others in the pipeline.
How was the mood, Joe? Was Becky all right? Was she happy? Was Jazz happy?
Becky's ruthlessly ambitious.
Easy for you to say.
I know, crikey. So as long as Becky gets a win, she's happy. And she was happy. She wasn't disappointed. She wasn't in any way. She said about wanting a bit of a better performance. They took the chance. They didn't take as many chances as they should have. Great, happy days. And Jazz was she was tired. You could tell she was tired. But Jazz was happy. She'd scored the goal. She was happy to get through to the next round, and she's eager for the next round. She's excited for a challenge. She wants a higher tier team. And I think it's the same thing with Newcastle. We'll always want to be testing ourselves, and that's what both of them were looking towards, the next challenge. Right, we're through to the next round. Happy days. Let's put that behind with who we got next. Let's focus on the next team. Let's hope it's a big challenge for us so we can really test ourselves. Class. 2 good little interviews where neither of them, if you based it on the interviews themselves, you would have thought would win 2-3-0 dominant, and it wasn't. Happy with the performance, happy with the getting into the next round. Mood was decent.
Josh, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions there. We've had this debate quite a lot of the time. So Jazz be playing further up, so she can produce those moments.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of again, Bruno drifting up in recent games. It just gives that extra couple yards. She's got a shot on her, as Joe has outlined. Most of hers have been screamers from on the edge of the box or out. So I think it's definitely a good shout to play her a little bit further and give her more opportunities to put them. I mean, not to jump ahead, but that was one of the biggest things I think we were lacking with Sheffield, was just taking some shots and putting something on net. There was too many times where it just felt like they were trying to walk it in.
Yeah, interesting. And then we've got Palace away eventually. We're waiting to see with the Forest one, we put them out the cup. And then Palace away, which will be played in Sutton. Should we be scared?
I don't think we should really ever be scared. I mean, at this point in the process, this is still all about, like Joe said, it's a growing process, and we want to be tested. We want to see how we measure up. I remember early season, that Everton game, and I was absolutely thrilled with that first half performance. I mean, I know they were playing their kind of reserves, if you will, but the fact that we just were absolutely dominating them and made them have to bring on their first team players to change that game says everything. So we want to keep testing ourselves, because that's the only way you get better, is by going against higher opposition. I mean, how many times when you get to those games you expect to win, sometimes it's easy to just count your eggs before they've hatched.
I think it's a massive, potentially banana skin for Palace. Like, I think if Newcastle can get the act together, I think it could be.
Yeah.
I'm surprised it wasn't broadcast for the actual TV. I know it's live on YouTube for that game, but I'm surprised because there could be a bit of an upset. So that was the Palace game. Joe's going to take on in a second, but 3 signings were, shall we say, in the pipeline. We knew about it, but obviously what we do in NFTV, we don't put it out there because we don't want to upset the apple cart. We don't want to say, oh, we've signed this player, that player, because we'll get in trouble, basically, let's be honest.
Yeah, and do you know what it is as well, though, aside from that? I think it's one of these things that, for me, in football, you would rather hear the club put that post up, put that video up, like Newcastle do often, of the player walking around St James's, coming into the club. You see with Shania Hales, it was done at the Hoppins. They make it really homegrown, and they make it like they connect it straight away to the fans. And I think it's better to find out that proper official way than to find out through a YouTube channel, or like a streamer or a content creator coming out and being like, well, I know this, and I'm in the know before you guys. Do you all want to know who we've got? And it's like, well, yeah, we do, but let it come out naturally, man, will you? So yeah, we're not going to reveal things like that, not at all. Talk about it amongst ourselves, and that's about it.
You can ask for privately, we might tell you, we might not, but not publicly. But 3 signings: Charlotte Wardlow, Poppy Pritchard, Freya Gregory, and Josh was signing a calibre of players there who are no doubt going to improve the first 11, never mind the 25 women's squad. I'm very excited about Poppy Pritchard. Obviously, she's done bits in lower leagues with the likes of Sestran, going on to Durham Women, and went to Man City. And funny enough, was loaned to Palace. But we'll talk about the new signings in the Sheffield United game. But Freya Gregory, player of the match at St James's Park, she was outstanding, scored against her. And Charlotte Wardlow, who looks like she's going to be a versatile player. But 2 of those 3 have made permanent moves. That tells a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's one of the big things that I love about watching the Lasses game right now, is you don't have to worry about those dreaded 3-letter PSR. We can just go and show our ambition and do it. And I think they've got bright futures. And, just seeing, again, at Sheffield, how many away fans turned up. And we'll touch on that. But, I think we're out turning up some WSL away day teams. So to me, I think the players can see that. They can feel the love. They see what they're buying into. And again, like we detailed, to me, I think as a player, if I was a player, that's all I want to see, is I want to see a mad fan base that's going to support us through thick and thin.
And he touched upon the signings, class on. I'm out with the moon. I was very excited with Poppy, Freya Gregory. We knew that all these were happening behind the scenes, and it was like, I think Poppy and Freya excite me more because I don't know loads about Charlotte, but I'm really excited, John. And when a player comes in, you're always trying to do this research and what have you, but we know these 2 players, in particular, the attacking threat, they are no doubt going to bring competition. And do you know what? Quality.
Now it is. Look at Newcastle in the past 9 months. Demi Stokes, Poppy Pritchard, who I'm sorry, but Poppy is a future England star. We're talking Ella Toon calibre. We're talking the calibre of Georgia Stanley, Rachel Daly, all of them. That is what Poppy Pritchard's going to be. She's from the north. Yeah, so be it. She might be a Man City player, and she might only be here for a half a season long loan, but she's here, and it shows the calibre that we're bringing in. Freya Gregory, permanent deal. Wow, I didn't expect that. I didn't expect any of these.
I thought it was a loan.
Yeah, I thought all 3 of these were going to be loans till the end of the season to get her over the line, to possibly push her into promotion. And again, it shows you what Becky's about. And I'm going to constantly repeat this words. She is ruthlessly ambitious. She knows. She said to us off camera, comment which game it was. Manu, yes, that's the one. And she said to us, this is so close. This is the closest I've ever seen this league. We can do this. Let's push this. We're 4 points in it now. I think we're 5 points off the top, 6 points off the top. There's not much separating them all.
Game in hand.
And you're bringing in players like Poppy Pritchard and Freya Gregory. If that's not a intent to be promoted, then what is? What is?
The class signings, I'm out with the moon with them, but we'll move on to clue 2 of Who Am I, and then we'll let Joe take over for the Sheffield United because me and Josh were down there. So, reflecting on clue 1, I have played as a kid in boys' teams. Yeah, so there's your first one. And then clue 2, I am currently a Newcastle United defender. So, I think someone went there and Josh was praying there. So clue 1, I had to play in the boys' team as a 2. Clue 2, I am a current Newcastle United defender. So there's your 2 clues, and get your comments in if you think you know already. Well done if you get on 2 clues. And
Cozy.
yeah, we'll come back to the third one a little
Don't ruin
bit
it, Kazi.
Probably. The third one will probably give it away, but we'll hang on to that. So, so there's your 2 clues. Joe's going to take over the Sheffield United bit, and then the last part of the show, the second half, will be all about why we follow the lasses, support the lasses. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Lee. So, yes, Sheffield United, I couldn't quite get to this game, which I was very disappointed about, but it is what it is. Now, we'll see the lineup come out. We know it's going to be a bit of a tighter game with Sheffield. You know, they've been in better form recently. And we'll look at the lineup, and it's very happy. And then right last minute, Deanna Cooper is switched out for Hannah Greenwood. What goes on there? Did you say anything, Lee? What was?
Well, we had no inside knowledge about it. So obviously, I know we were pressed, but didn't know until literally 2 minutes before kickoff. That was changed. So I've heard nothing. That's my only gripe about the women's stuff, is that with the men, you kind of know when they're due back. With the women's, it's a little bit unknown. I think that needs to be cleared up about injuries and stuff. But good to see Furness on the bench. That was important. Good to see the 2 new signings, one on the bench, one starting. But still no Lumsden, still no Potts. There's a lot of speculation going around with Jodie Bartlett, which we're not going to go into at the moment. There's a lot of people that are not available at the moment. But as I say, a very late change. But I think she's capable. I really do, Hannah. I think we don't have to worry about that, I don't feel.
Nah, Hannah Greenwood, she's one of those who, for me, she goes very much under the radar. A lot of people don't realise what she does. She's extremely versatile. She can play centre-back. She can play middle of the field. You know, she can even dabble a little bit in the wings, for goodness sake. I think Hannah Greenwood is one of the massive players who's underrated and a reliable change last minute. Josh, I want to turn to you because you've mentioned it a couple of times already. That away fan business.
Yeah.
What's it like saying we'll go to somewhere like Sheffield and take them amount of fans?
Yeah, I mean, I was just so excited to be part of an away day. You know, I would have loved to do an away day with the men as well, but, you know, it was more than sufficient. You know, unfortunately, through some weird circumstances, I couldn't hear the signature Bernie drums with our chants, but we'll get into that.
She had a drum taken off her.
Yeah, it was a weapon apparently.
Sheffield United allowed one in.
Yeah.
Double standards.
We ain't even gonna go in there. There was all kinds of shenanigans with them, kind of shafting us, I would say, and trying to make it uncomfortable for us away fans. But yeah, I mean, it was just so great, the chance and the camaraderie and having a good time. I mean, I think talking about Hannah Greenwood, I mean, she was one of the stalwarts at the back. You know, a couple of the people sitting around me were like, how would she feel almost that she didn't start that game? You know, she's just so quality. Would she almost be frustrated that it was a last minute change that had to see her get on? But she did such a good job at kind of calming things down when a ball would come over and tidy it up.
That's that class that Hannah Greenwood brings, if you ask me. She's almost captain material without being captain. Now, obviously, the game's been a tough one, and we've seen a few mistakes come in the side of Claudia Moan. And I'm sure Lainey's going to be sat there saying, well, at least I'm not as wrong as I was at the start of the season when she said she doesn't really rate Claudia. But I think Claudia's been a great player for her. And if anything, that has been the most mistakes she's ever made in one game, Lee, would you say?
Well, 10 minutes prior, she did that worldie save.
Yeah.
So she tipped it over and said, that's the beauty of a world-class goalkeeper. Because I think in a women's game, I think she's the best in the league.
Yeah.
I think we've got the best in the league. I think there has been a few times, and it will happen to goalkeepers. The only concern if it keeps happening is that it can affect points.
Yeah.
And I think she is quality. I think she's right up there. It's one of those where it's just and ironically, it's Charlotte Wardlow whose last goal against Sheffield United was for the opposition as well.
Yeah.
So she scored 2 against Sheffield United with opposition teams. And she's just joined from them, ironically. to be honest, the game wasn't great. I'll be honest with you. I think a point overall is fair. There were spells where we had a lot of possession, but we weren't doing enough. Josh mentioned briefly before that. Have a pop. I think Jazz should have scored in the first few minutes. She's got one literally 3 yards out. But the mistake, unfortunately, it could knock her confidence. Because I know you're going to touch upon it later on about the mood after the game, because we were pitch side, but you can tell it's affected afterwards. And it's a shame because the thing is, with a goalkeeper that makes a mistake, it's the last line of defence, isn't it? If a striker misses, like I'll use Jazz as an example, if an attack midfielder misses a chance, you can easily forget about that and score again. Goalkeeper, it's on the mind because you've just let one in. And it's a shame for her, but I wouldn't lose faith in her just yet. I think she's quality.
No, I agreed with that. I think Claudia Moon's one of the best signings that we've made overall. Now, the goal itself that went in, it was sort of a back pass to back, or wasn't it? Sure.
Yeah. It was Wardlaw, I'm pretty sure, put it. And when I went and rewatched it, after the game, because originally I thought it was kind of on Claudia more. I thought it took a little bit of a goofy bounce when I was in the stadium. But then when I went and watched it back and I saw how much zip was on that pass, again, I'm not saying that Claudia still shouldn't have stopped it, but there is a little bit of understanding. There's probably a little bit more than you would have liked on that. But yeah, I would echo what you said, Lee. It's just I would worry about her confidence because being a goalkeeper, it's so much of a mental game, because so much of the game you have nothing to do, and it's all about keeping fresh and ready for when you're called upon. And when it comes to shot stopping, some of the saves she made were fantastic. So I think you've got all the things you want out, and maybe there's still developed that sweeper keeper that everyone wants to do now, or just realize that, hey, with Pope, that's not his or her game. Maybe not everyone needs to play the same.
Definitely. Now, obviously, we do end up coming back and making it 1-1, which I think, for instance, it was a hard game for her. Overall, we weren't all there, but we've managed to keep ourselves together, Lee, and bringing Fernie on and making those changes. Did the substitutes change the game completely, or was it just a matter of the team staying strong in the mental?
I think what Fernie gives it, she wasn't meant to play. She said that afterwards.
Yeah. Because
you mentioned the injuries and stuff, she wasn't even there, so she came on. So I didn't really have many options. I think when Poppy came on, it's especially her first couple of crosses, because she gets the ball and it's a hell of a cross. You were talking about Robert in a different video, which is coming up the channel. It was like she got the ball and it was just a high whipped in cross. We don't do that as a team.
She's so quick.
We're normally playing with inwards. Like Beth on the left side will come in, and then Amy's chests the ball down and she cuts back and it's like, get your shot off. You've got to get that shot off. You're free. And it's like, but then she whips another low one, which is dangerous. So she was bright. I think she faded off with a ball control. She was trying to beat a defender, and I think the defender got the best of her. But Charlotte Wardlaw, achieving her debut, I think she was all right. But the substitutions, I think you had to go for. I thought Amy was actually bright on the right-hand side, coming in, dribbling, but just got to get a shot away. And with Fernie with the experience, and it felt like the header was... We're knocking on the door, but I thought the game was lost. I didn't think we're getting a point.
Yeah.
I thought, we're losing there. There's no way that we haven't tested the goalkeeper enough. I have to say, Sheffield United defended brilliantly. They're trying to stay up. That's their aim. Try and get away from Portsmouth, who ironically will play next. And it's a last gasp header that loops in the... Probably they should have cleared off the line, because I think the two defenders were all clashing together. And then that was 91st, 92nd minute, and the mentality was... Get the ball, let's kick off again, let's go.
Yeah.
And obviously I know you want to touch upon it, but I actually think it's a fair score reflection of D.
Yeah, obviously I was at home watching the watch along with my dad and Emmy, which, thank you very much, Lee, you and Dale bringing that to it. It allows, when the league fails to bring you live games, you can always rely on Newcastle Fans TV to bring you a watch along at the very least, which is good. It's like a radio commentary almost. It was a fair result in the end. And you obviously spoke to Rachel Furness as well. So let's hear from Fernie.
We'll talk about the game first and then you'll come back. How do you assess that?
I think frustrating. First off, we know we need to be better than that. I think we were quite comfortable at home against Sheffield. We know how good they are on the ball, but I think very frustrated in how much we lacked today, I'd say.
You showed character though, because obviously going behind, I know it's an unfortunate error, and you came back and you showed great character. What was the feeling like when you scored? I know it's your first goal back since you came back to the club, and it felt like a lifetime that was going to drop, and it did, and you got the equaliser. But what was the moment in that moment when you scored? What was it like?
I mean, it's my first goal for Newcastle, and yeah, I guess I didn't expect to get any minutes today, but yeah, to come back from injury, get my first goal, I can't explain the feeling. Like it's a proud one for myself, but yeah, I think I wish I was standing here saying it was the winner. I think it's just we're disappointed. It's not a happy changing room. We've set standards for ourselves this season. Coming into the championship, yes, we're new in the championship, but we've got standards, and we weren't good enough today. So overall, disappointed.
So, Lee obviously asked there, Josh, in your opinion, do you think that was 2 points dropped in that game? Should we have took 3 away from that?
I think we do, or we should have. Second bottom of the league, and we did mention a couple saves where Claudia Moan made some good saves, but to be honest, they really never threatened us other than that own goal. And at first it felt like a point salvaged, and I was excited, but then as I sat on the way home more and thought about it, I was like, they did nothing to earn that goal, really. And so it is frustrating, especially if we want to be promoted. I know it's still probably out of reach at this point. I think we've dropped some points where if we were going to do it, we needed to pick them up. But at the end of the game, I still think it's vital that you walk out of there with 1 point instead of no points. Because like you said, Lee, I mean, I was standing there pacing, and I thought, where is this goal coming from? But once Fernie got that looper in, it felt like there was no way but a 2-1 win maybe. I mean, if I personally felt like we were going to steal it all of a sudden, because it was just one-way traffic after that goal for the last 5 minutes of added time.
And you've got to look at like last season with blitzing teams 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10s, and this season the goals have dried up a little bit. And Shania did make a chance in the first half by herself, as she turned and made the goalkeeper, but she was anonymous after that.
Yeah.
And I think obviously that's why the new signings are coming in, to give a little bit of pace out wide and a little bit more options. Izzy Sibley was subbed off quite early on as well on that right side for Amy, and there was just not enough creativity during. Yes, you're always going to concede goals, and we can talk about Claudia's mistake, but if Newcastle scored goals, that mistake's forgotten about.
Yeah. There's definitely other moments where we should have put it away, 100%.
Agreed. I think when we were sitting back there, I think it's one thing that's become a bit synonymous with this season is that we're not finishing enough of the chances that we get. So hopefully bringing in the likes of Freya Gregory, Poppy Pritchard, they're going to really assist getting, like you say, more options, more balls in the box, and maybe even get Poppy Pritchard up front a little bit and get her to head it in a few times. You never know. I think it's just going to give some more options. Now, after the game, I spoke to Matt Walby as well, and Matt said Becky just went straight down the tunnel. Now, obviously, Lee, you were pitch side. What was that mood like after the game? Because we've seen it before when we've had a disappointing result, and we know how Becky can be. For such a happy, positive soul, she can switch when it's not going our way, can't she?
Yeah, it was awkward, I'll put it, on pitch side. So the players came over, and I mean, Josh, you would have seen that, they're clapping them off and stuff. Some of the crowd was singing for Claudia, which was nice. It was really nice just to, try and lift her, because obviously it's playing on her mind. Emma Keegan-Stobbs was going over after her. Yeah. Becky was a couple of waves, and she was just straight down the tunnel. Face on her, to be honest with you, fuming, straight down. She didn't come back out. Which is fair enough, but sometimes you've got to face it, things don't go well. But she went down, and then it was just, I don't know what you saw, Josh, but Hannah Green was in tears.
Yeah, she was bawling her eyes out I heard a lot of people were asking, what's going on with Hannah? And yeah, I don't know.
And then I think just after that, it was Amy Andrews. So the players were coming over, if you were taking selfies, if you were talking with families, and then there's a couple of them in tears, and it was like, it's not the worst result in the world. We've come back, we've showed resilience, we've showed character, we've nicked a point. We haven't come away getting beaten. I think you've got to be, not that the lasses will think, and Becky thinks, oh, this is the 3 points, we can walk. You just never think that. You've got to go across that white line and actually do it. This point could be crucial. You never know at the end of the season. That might get with the extra place higher than, say we finish 5th. That 1 point make up a 4th. I know Becky might look at it and think, well, them extra 2 points might have been
3rd or 2nd.
But Newcastle didn't deserve the extra 2 points.
Yeah,
they didn't deserve it. It was just I felt awkward around it because me and Dale were around it. I was just being wary of. I was saying to Dale, read the room and all that. Just it's a somber mood, and that he didn't come back out, and Rachel come out, and obviously Rachel's probably the only real, except from Poppy making her debut and Charlotte and that. But Fernie come out because she was back from injury. She scored the goal. It's a more positive story. She did it.
Yeah.
I would have liked to see Becky come on and do it, but we'll ask the question on Sunday at the press and see how she reflects on the week.
Yeah. Hard week, very hard week. Now, one thing as well, though, just before we go into Clue 3 and wrap up from Sheffield as well, is, Josh, from where you've been watching the Newcastle United Women, we know how Barclays Championship is a much more difficult league. Despite that, with where we're sitting in the table, yes, some of our performances have been lacklustre. Are you still impressed with how the women have done this season?
Absolutely. I thought this was going to be the year where everything caught up, and I thought, we were maybe going to be lingering to the bottom, not really in threat of going down, but, we, as you can see, so like my favorite over the past couple of years has been Georgia Gibson, and she hasn't really factored at all. Finally, all these promotions have caught up with her level and things like that. So to me, I was, cautiously optimistic, but I mean, I said a couple weeks ago with some friends that I, talk with online, I think it was going into, who was it? I'm blanking on who the game was, but it was probably mid-November when we were sitting like 3 points back from top. And I said, this league is on. We beat Birmingham at the time, and other than some late game, craziness with Durham, we played a really good game against them. We showed up against the teams we needed to show up against, and I still would feel optimistic. It's just the problem is we probably have used all of our wiggle room now. So to expect
we've got to go on a run now, especially with the new signings. We've got to go on like a
exactly
3 on the bounce or something to get back up there with the game in hand, especially as well.
Exactly. I remember it wasn't that long ago that I was laughing at the Mackhams down at the bottom of the table, and now we're looking up at them.
Well, at the start of the season, we were like, 7 points from the first 3 games, and we're like, ooh,
we were
do that again. Can we go on like that really run? Because it's so tight. I mean, if you win 3 games, and Newcastle have got that game in hand, so really the others are only going to play 2. You're literally right up in second place.
I like it. I'm impressed with it so far now, certainly.
Absolutely.
It's right on where I thought it would be, right on the money middle of the table. Now, we've had the first 2 clues.
Yeah, shall I take over again?
You can take over again.
So back to me to wrap up this section that we're going to talk about is nothing to do with the matches, just a little bit of we're going to wrap up talking about the next 15-20 minutes why we love NUFC Women. I'm going to ask Josh a couple of questions about the football over in the States, because obviously the American women's football over there are massive, I would say. But clue 3, I have played for Sunderland. So we'll go back. Clue 1, I had to play in a boys team as a youngster. Clue 2, I am a current Newcastle United defender. And clue 3, I have played for Sunderland. Now, there is technically 2 players that could fall into that category, but I'm only thinking of 1 player. So, unfortunately, if you have 2 players listed, you might be wrong on that. We'll reveal that right at the very end, because I think that's probably narrowed it down a little bit. Don't give it away, lads, but if you got your ideas who that might be.
Yeah, I have my guess, but I'll probably be wrong. I'm terrible with trivia.
We'll come back to it later. Right. So, why are we mad about Newcastle United Women? Why was Satya and Costa making women's videos? Because, we'll be pretty honest, they're not the most talked about things amongst the Newcastle United fan base. It's not going to grab 20,000 views talking around here, but we do this every single week, 2 to 3 videos on Extra and Newcastle Fans TV, and watch the story behind it. So I'd imagine, Josh, yours would be quite late into the party, because Newcastle United Women, especially the last couple of years, have just gone like that.
Yeah.
What's your story following Newcastle United, and why?
So it pretty much started with when the takeover happened, and a couple of the videos were done early on after the takeover when Amanda came and things like that. And I've always been a big advocate of just women's sport in general. I think it's criminally underfunded. Some of the stories you hear about some of the greatest female athletes of their time having to work full-time jobs or raise a kid and barely make a livable wage. Meanwhile, say someone like Miggy Almiron, who's pedestrian or something like that would make more than their share of money. And so for me, it's always just been a general philosophy of I think women's sport deserves more backing than it gets. I started with women's sport through ice hockey, actually. I'm a big ice hockey fan as well. So, in the States, that was something near and dear to me, and also in Canada with women's hockey and stuff like that.
I think Joe will echo this. I think it's brilliant that someone from the States is taking an interest in the women's game at Newcastle United, because it's not just the men, you've got the women as well, the equal. They play for the one badge, we're all under the same umbrella.
Yeah.
It's one thing for me, Josh, where you turned around before in another video that will be coming to the channel soon, talking about like the men's team, why we're following Newcastle, where you say you don't really feel like a proper Geordie. However, when you came into Costa earlier, you used the word Bane. You said that you went and seen the Banes, the under-21s team, and you follow everything Newcastle United. To me, that makes you more of a Geordie than some men's fans who won't literally see anything other than the men's game. And
Stop, you're stroking his ego. Stop it.
If you look on the camera, stroking something else. Anyways, no, maybe he's cut that bit. Well, I will say. Anyways,
Dave.
But no, honestly, for me, it's one of those where you are a true Geordie, Josh. You are, regardless if you don't have the accent or whatever, it doesn't matter. Yeah. You've made your time. Your time off from work and your holiday per se is coming to watch Newcastle play.
Yeah,
we're dealing with Storm Eowyn, or whatever you want to call them. We're dealing with horrible, wet, damp, cold weather. You've went down to Sheffield. You've been about. You've seen these cold under the lights games and everything. You've dealt with it all, and you've just been here and loved every second of it, regardless of what results have been. And that for me makes you a proper Geordie.
That's what this is all about. That's why everyone follows the team, in general. I would say, that childhood dream of putting on the strip for your hometown club or whatever, and albeit it's not my hometown club, I never kicked a football a day in my life. I'm absolutely dreadful.
Just as good as Jordan?
Probably.
Yeah, and I have kicked the ball in my life, and Josh is better than us, so
maybe. But for me, it's just, again, the other big thing is it all goes into the same pot, again, just being pragmatic. The better the women do, the better than we can do. I mean, look at Chelsea and their bullcrap that they sold their women's team to themselves or something like that.
World record fee now, haven't they?
Yeah. So again, even just pragmatically for me, that was another big reason, because the better they do, the more that means for the lads as well.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people know our story, so I won't go over mine too much. Is that Newcastle United Women weren't getting looked at, and I've been following them since Andy Innes, well before Becky. And Newcastle United Women weren't getting looked at. No one was even touching them. Now it's much better, and I still think there's strides to go.
Yeah.
Because no doubt when the Newcastle United versus Sunderland game comes back, you'll have a lot of the media who haven't bothered with even this season, because that grinds on me. Fellow online personalities will turn up where they've been. Do you know what I mean? So it's like there has to be consistency, but it is better. But back when I first started, it was just Newcastle Fan TV. There was nothing else.
Yeah. I mean, a decade ago, I was hearing stories the players had to buy their own kits in Washington. I mean, it's crazy. They were doing fundraisers like the Boy Scouts. That is mental. That someone, again, just add that to the massive checklist of that. I won't say it, but Mike Ashley, and you can fill in the blank there, but just it just shows no class and a lack of understanding of what this city means.
It is. I think that's why I want to highlight. And then look, it's great that the women's games come on leaps and bounds, and I didn't know how realistic when I started doing. I didn't know where this was going to go, and like all we ever wanted was money to be put into it. And look at it now, and the Saudis get a lot of stick. Well, look what they've done to our women's team. Absolutely fantastic. And yours is a little bit different to mine, isn't it? Because I did it for self-gain, probably for the channel. I'm not gonna lie, fair enough. But I fell in love with it. I love the. I will come to that later, but. Yours was obviously having that experience with the little one, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, I mean, like I said in a different video, I sort of came back to loving football by watching the women's game. I started watching the Women's Super League early, and Josh touches upon it in another video, but my first women's team was actually Chelsea Women. That was the team that I followed, and I loved watching them play. They had such enthusiasm, and the whole thing was about them just showing people what the women's game's about, And it was one day, I was sat with the Bain, and an interview comes on the TV, and it's Becky Langley. And she's talking about the women's game, she's talking about getting more eyes on the women's game, and it was round about the takeover time where Amanda was talking about pushing the women's game, and, the Bain looked up and went, she was only 3 at the time, she was like, Dad, is that the girls? I was like, yeah, that's the girls playing football. Do you want to go see them? Yeah. Sound? Let's go. I was about 2 weeks later, game at Kingston Park, and me and the Bain went and were in the stands over the standing stands where the likes of Jamie Gallen and Matt Walby sort of stand. the Bain wanted to go there. So we went up and we watched at Kingston Park a great display from these young lasses wearing black and white. And the Bain falls in love with Jane Harland, who's now a Middlesbrough player, number 3. I ended up falling in love with Lauren Robson because she really ironically with the name, she really reminded us of like a Lauren Robert style player. She was always making them driving runs, great, wieldy, powerful.
Still in love with her?
I still love Lauren Robson. She's great, and she's become an even better player. And put her playing career aside, she's become a phenomenal coach, coaching for I2I Soccer Academy. And I think it's fantastic what she's done. And we started going then. I didn't expect to fall in love with it as much as I did, but all of a sudden I was invited into this community of people who just loved the atmosphere. They didn't really care so much about wins and losses. Obviously a win would get better reception, obviously, but even when we lost, we would walk away from a game smiling, laughing, joking, taking pictures. Colin Locke coming over, seeing the players, seeing the customers.
Fans.
Fans. It's because I'm looking into the Costa there and I'm seeing customers and I'm like,
Break time.
customers, break. So, but no, it's a one of those where the community was just massive. And I mean, this was before the likes of Charlotte Potts joined the team and Bernie started coming along and everything changed. I remember going up to places like Druid Park, we haven't even got a stand and it's cold, it's raining, and still players like Katie Barker, I've got a picture somewhere, we might be able to bring it up on screen if I can send it over at laying time, but we've got like Katie Barker standing in the cold rain getting pictures with my daughter at 4 years old. Yeah. Becky Langley, anytime my daughter would ask to go on the pitch and get a picture, straight away, and that still remains to this day. If my daughter wants a picture with Becky accommodates it straight away. And it was this message, and this is another thing that I repeat often, which I didn't realise until Andy Cook said it, former assistant manager of Newcastle Women, and when they went full time, and I think this is before even they went full time, the ambition was to show what it's worth to invest in your women's team. Yeah. For the whole country to see it. Not just the region, not just to show we're better than Sunderland or anything. It was to show everyone that if you invest wholly into your women's team, it will pay massive amounts of dividends for you. Yeah. Not just monetary gain, but passion. Exactly. We've got a few fans now who, the likes of Steve Mallon, who goes to both men's and women's games. He's a double season ticket holder. Like yourself, Lee.
Thank you.
Don't worry. More games than anyone last season, and I mean anyone, even the likes of Darren Eales and players didn't go to more games than this man did last season for Black and White, so bear that in mind. But it was just the investment of it and the wholesome, and I still remember to this day you catching a video before I joined the channel of me and the Bain dancing to Shaq's moving all around, and for me that video still to this day I look at it and I get a tear in my eye because it's the epitome of what it means to go to the women's games. It's the community.
It is. It's like a family. It reminded me so much of just like meeting my family. As I said, I came over for the Lasses final last year. That was my first game, and I did it because I knew it would be much less complicated to get tickets and things like that. And to me, a cup was a cup. It didn't matter who got it, and I wanted to be there for a moment in history for the club. And from the moment I walked into that club, the Republican Club or something that we met at pregame or something. The social club. Yes. And I felt just at home with everyone. I had people grabbing me like, "You met this guy? He came all the way from Philadelphia." For a while, I just thought my name was Philadelphia man. No one knew my name, but they knew me as Philadelphia guy. So
fair enough. What's the difference because we say it all the time, but what's the difference between the men and the women?
So as the player performance,
as a supporter. What's the difference?
To me, it's so much more of a family aspect. Like he was saying, if I had a young daughter, just that good atmosphere to see. Again, as I was harping on, to me, it's so important to teach our young girls that follow your dreams, whatever it is. If you want to be a professional athlete, just like a young lad would want to do, you should be able to do that and have a successful living doing that. And to me, I think that's the most heartwarming aspect of it, is being there and seeing all the youngins, whether it's boys or girls, and just seeing the opportunity and, chanting. We get so excited. Claudia's a Geordie. That's we were saying, chanting her off as she had that blunder and trying to serenade her and cheer her up. That's what it's all about to me, and that's why I love it. it feels like, a family, as I've said many
I
times.
agree. It's the community feel. Like I love, as you mentioned, God rest his soul, seeing Colin first.
Yeah.
And then going to see. I mean, we don't even text each other. We just see each other. Oh, there he is.
I never even met him, and I felt like I knew the guy. When I saw that post that morning, I sat for 10 minutes sitting at my desk crying. I never met the man.
I loved him.
But he seemed like a class guy from everything I always saw you guys talk with him.
Yeah, we loved
good
him.
sense of humor, which, I get that from my grandfather. My grandfather always loved a good joke, and so that's what he always seemed to bring, that dry humor.
It is. It's bumping in everybody, all the regulars. There's too many to name because I don't want to single out any individuals, but yeah, and then the closeness with the players, getting to know them on a personal level and knowing the boundaries, what not to do, what
Yeah.
to do, and that I love all of that. Whereas the men's is very much it's all or nothing. It's die or 3 points. It's
Yeah.
in the moment. It's effing and blind, and it's a totally it's like an 18, isn't it? Whereas the women's is more like PG.
Yeah.
Literally, even the chance, like Geordie boys taking we sing Geordie girls taking the mick,
Or the referees are Mackham instead of the
referee,
W word.
referees and Mackham, things like that would change it because we know there's a league of people underneath who are younger, who are the next generation, who are going to come watching this. Do we want them standing there screaming? And it's one of these things when you talk about how do you get rid of racism in football, how do you get rid of, I'm losing the words, how do you keep equality alive in football, because I can't think of the other word there, but
It's also a culture thing, that, isn't it?
yeah, it is, and it's things like this, teaching the kids to, how often do you see a men's video when someone's telling the kid to give the finger to the away fans or to the home fans?
The W.
Or it's the W word. Like the kid can swear.
gesture.
I even thought that. When I first came up, I was like, Emmy, by the way, you might hear some swearing, and you might want to swear, and I'll let you off at the matches. Nah, none of that at all. It's just magic. It's a completely different thing, and the positivity is so alive, man. So alive.
It is brilliant. Josh, I want to ask you how football in general over the States, because it's still growing.
Yeah.
And the WSL's rocketed probably the last 5 years, especially with the amount of foreign talent that's coming to our leagues, and obviously we've seen it with equal pay, the US women athletes and stuff like that. And what's it called? Is it the National American Soccer Women? What's the league?
Yeah, I think it's NWSL.
Something like that. How is women's football perceived over there?
I think it's definitely growing. I can't claim to follow a lot of it back in the States, just because for me, I'm all in on the black and white. But I know, so the school I went to for university, we didn't even have an American football team. All we had was a football team. That was our big thing. And our men's team had won national championship 21 out of the past 25 years, and our lasses team had won, I think, 14 out of the last 20. So that was another big thing for me in getting involved in just the sport as a whole. So to me, it's definitely growing. And I think, it's funny because the old school Americans kind of, because it's a European sport, we have this fear of the C word, communism or socialism. So they'll just get, those European. But for me, with the younger age, it's really growing. Especially with the immigrants that we have coming from Mexico and stuff. Not getting anything political, but it's definitely growing, and you can see that in the States, and I love it. I was telling some people earlier, for me to go to an MLS game to see the team in Philadelphia, it would have cost double what it would cost to go to a Champions League game here. Wow. To see meaningless, no offense, So to me, it's growing. The demand is growing, and obviously our sports economics are different for sure, but it's growing, and so is the last game.
I went to an MLS game. It was Red Bulls versus Chicago
Fire,
and I think Schweinsteiger was playing.
Yeah, Schweinsteiger, I think, went to Fire for a while.
Yeah, I watched that game. Yeah, that's when I was over in New York. And I wanted also to stay on the subject as well, as because obviously we know it's growing here, but how is Newcastle United Women put aside when you've got your supporter clubs over there? Does it get talked about much? Is it just a brief conversation? Is there no conversation, or does it depend on the individual?
I would say it depends on, not to be selfish, whether I'm there or not that week. I am the champion in our Philly group. I'm always talking about it. I'm always preaching to them that they should check it out, especially for those that are dying to get over and see a game. I said, if you want to guarantee you can see a game, go see the Lasses. You'll be able to see a game, no problem.
Get a stadium tour in
and
there.
things like that. Exactly. And I get it, but yeah, I mean, I would say it's growing in awareness. I mean, it was actually crazy. A couple months back, we had some people from Toon Army London visiting Philadelphia. They found our fan group and they went, and they knew me from the women's final, and she wanted my signature on her kit, and I'm like, I ain't signing your kit and ruining it, but it's growing. But I again, I don't say that to stroke my ego or anything, but it is growing, and I would say I'm the evangelist, if you will, to our group and trying to get them to follow and things like that.
You're the Bernie in the States then.
Yeah.
You are Bernie in the States.
Well, when they were there that week, so the bar that was the week of the Forest game when we won away. We had that on the screen, and we had on my laptop sitting at the center. That was one of the games that the Barclays Championship was streaming it, so we had the Lasses game on the TV too, and we were following them both.
Should have had our watch along on. We'll start to wrap up with a couple of last questions for everyone. Do you have any worries, Joe, about Newcastle United Women?
Slightly. I feel like since coming into the Championship, we've kind of lost touch with interaction with the fans. A little bit. I feel like we could do with a bit more fan outreach. And I don't just mean with us, like, with the channel. I mean, again, we touched upon it earlier about the injuries and stuff. Like, most of the time we find out injuries through players talking about it to someone at the sidelines. It should be the club talking about it. I feel like we need a few more press conferences from likes of Becky, even from Claire Ditchburn, you know, if Becky isn't available. Just 10-minute conferences, you know, you get it with Eddie Howe before a match. Generally the day before a match is going to be played, Eddie Howe comes out and he'll be talking about the match going forward. He'll update you about injuries, he'll update you about a few different things. And I feel like we need a little bit more about that. Outside of that, do I have any worry? Now we're on the right path. We're climbing the leagues. We are, here it comes again, being ruthlessly ambitious. You know, as sad as it is, we've seen the likes of Georgia Gibson, Anna Soulsby, Casey Elson leave the club. I mean, from when I first started coming to Newcastle United Women, I haven't got many of the original lineup left. Some people find that
It's just
sad.
Katie.
It's literally just
Katie and Grace Donnelly.
Yeah, Grace and Katie. And do you know what? I don't mind that so much. Yes, it's sad. Yes, it's upsetting. But it's just like saying, I remember when I seen Maxi leave, and I was devastated. Oh, wow, we're getting rid of Maxi. This is ridiculous. I can't stand that. But we're on the right path. If you want glory, you need to focus on skill, and you need to be, yet again, you need to be ruthlessly ambitious. And sometimes that means getting rid of some sort of homegrown talent who just can't cut the mustard quite as much anymore. And we wish them the best in all the endeavours, but I don't have any worries really, other than, like I say, I think we need a little bit more outreach to the fans, to the community, which we kind of had last season. I would be impressed with that.
Yeah.
I agree. That's maybe just a meet and greet. There's 2 players who are injured, and you meet them and they're just meet and greeting this little section in the concourse, cordoned off for 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds to get photos taken.
Hell, if the club wants to get in touch with me, we can sort something out. They come and do meet and greet in Wolves and Costa, right?
Or as I say, the accessibility is tight, and we've talked about this off camera. We're not massively happy with some stuff, but we'll leave that aside. But Josh, you have anything worrying you regarding the Lasses?
Generally, I'd echo the sentiment of Joe. I think everything's more or less good. The one thing I've noticed, in again, I've only been to 2 match days, so you guys would have a better pulse on the general ambiance. And, you know, we went on about the big family atmosphere, but I remember after that Luton game, you know, that was a tough pill to swallow. Or not Luton, after the hashtag final, that was a tough pill to swallow. And there were some strong words that I overheard people say. And again, listen, we all say things when we're frustrated, but that would be the only thing I would say is, and I've started to hear, just like we see with the men sometimes, it real quickly, yeah, you know, in negativity. And don't get me wrong, if the world is not about being an echo chamber in just mindless positivity. But you got to go about criticism in the right way. And especially with the Lasses, they see this so much more than you got to understand the men's senior squad and what that can mean to them when they read those. I mean, some of the things I heard last year, I won't say which player it was, but some of the things I heard about one of the players last year after that game, sickened me. As much as it was a great atmosphere and I felt so welcomed, it was like, it's one game. It's just like the Bournemouth game. Anything can happen. That's why you play the games.
Yep.
And you see the family members literally.
Well, and that's the hard thing. Yeah. I mean, I was sitting, I didn't know it, but at the hashtag game, I was sitting right behind Bailey Gale's family.
Yeah, and you've got to be careful what you say.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they see it, and they've got quite a close relationship, especially as a channel. My only worry, you kind of touched upon that, was, well, it's not a worry, but I want to see them have a purposely built stadium or redeveloped Kingston Park. It's not a worry, but it's something I would like to see. But the Geordie DNA, we're losing it really fast. There's hardly any OGs that are left, and I think we expected it. It's just sad that we're on that trajectory where the quality is getting stronger and stronger, and sooner rather than later we are going to start signing Swedish players, German players, American players, whoever, because the quality's, and it will happen unfortunately. But that's the story of that one. I've got a fun question to wrap up on, a very tough one. I'm going to come to the American first, Josh. So Newcastle United are in a promotion game, the last game of the season. You've got the option to go to that, or you've got the option to go to a Tyneware derby. Which one are you picking?
I'm not even lying. For me, it would be the Lasses, because not being a local, for me, like last year when we had the first Tyneware derby, it probably doesn't resonate the meaning to me as much. I mean, like I always say, I can't stand Everton. I don't know why, but ever since I started following, Everton just drove me up the wall. So to me, that might jeopardize my Geordie credentials saying that, but to me, it would absolutely be to see the Lasses for promotion over a Tyneware derby.
I think I'm going to nah yours. But if you have the option to go to Tyneware derby, the men's as well, or a championship game that you go up to the WSL, tough one, that, isn't it?
It's difficult, very difficult, and I'm almost going to use a little cheat code to get us out of having to answer it effectively. And
It's not offensive.
it's
No cheating.
essentially, which one would Emmy want to go to? And Emmy's going to pick. She's going to pick the women's game, the promotion game. Even though she loved the Sunderland derby that we had with the women, that has probably been her best and most memorable. I feel like that's going to be the game in years to come when Emmy gets asked the same questions we've asked her. Why do you follow Newcastle United Women? Why do you follow Newcastle? She's going to go, my dad took us to the stadium and we had a great time. We beat the Mackhams, But I think it's a promotion game for me. It's the pride in it. It's the love, and it's the same love that I had before Mike Ashley destroyed it for us in the men. I've got that in the women, and it's never been tarnished. Nothing's going to change that, and I'm going to the promotion game. I am. I have to.
For me, I almost feel like my fandom being a little bit less, like I tie in with the timeline of the Lasses, so I almost feel like I've been there from day one in a way with the Lasses. So to me, like even the Derby day for the Lasses meant more to me in winning that game than it meant last year in that cup game. Like I said, it's hard. I mean, I wouldn't turn down either if I could, but yeah.
If I didn't have the channel, I'd pick the women. But I think it's because we've got to have both games covered, and I think that's it. But because I've experienced winning 3-0 with the men's and the FA Cup, which was brilliant, and hasn't been won for years before, like 1-1 draw with Mitrovic was doing all of that, wasn't he? Because I missed out on the Newcastle United were playing when we played Barnsley away, I hated it. I absolutely hated it. I mean, mine was like trying to get signal in the stadium, what's the score, oh, we've got up, get him. And we did the last word, me and Johnny, and about 10 minutes was spent about a game we hadn't even watched, about the Lasses at the end, because it was that much ingrained in and that much that we loved it when we thought about it.
Yeah.
I think if there was nothing, if there's nothing hindering on that derby, I would go to the WSL promotion game. I think I would never say that as a fan, because I've always picked the men first. But if it means that the Lasses are in the WSL, I want to be amongst that party, mate. I want to see it all, mate.
Yeah.
I want to see it. I mean, you were amongst the Lasses in the celebrations last year, which I had the opportunity to see it all, but we kind of like expected to go up and now we battered them 10-0. It was great the full day, but if we were to get a WSL in a clincher last game of the season or a derby with Newcastle United, I really do think if we can have the men's covered, if Johnny could do that or Sam, I would do the women.
Yeah, I mean, if you rewind a year ago, I mean, it almost felt like we already knew we were going up. Where right now, as we've said on the show, it's anyone's game. So I think if we get to the last game of the season and that's on the cards, it'll feel there's so much more weight on that moment. And I think, as not to take anything away from the specialness of the moment we had last year, but I think it would be absolutely remarkable, the scenes we would see this year.
Okay, then let's reveal which player I am thinking of. So going back to clue 1, when I was a child, I played in the boys' team. Number 2, I am a current Newcastle United defender. And clue number 3, I have played for Sunderland. Josh, any ideas?
I think it might be Potsy.
Okay. Joe?
Just had a last minute one where I've just changed it, and I feel like I've been debating on it, but I was stuck between 3. Well, 2. Potsy and Fernie. But I've just had Liv Watt into the mix, and I'm going to go with Liv Watt.
We'll have a little drum roll. I was thinking of Liv Watt.
Get
Potsy
in.
was the other option. So, Josh, technically you're all right, but
I'll take the half point.
I was thinking of Liv Watt, not Fernie, because technically she goes down as a midfielder. But yeah, I think most people should have probably got that with I played for Sunderland, to be honest with you. But we're going to wrap up here. That has been our Newcastle United Women's podcast, talking about the last 2 games. Obviously, the Lasses do play this Sunday at Kingston Park. This is going out the day before, so this is Saturday. So do get yourselves along. Josh is going to be there for his last one before he makes the trip home. We'll be there. I'm coming up from Southampton. So yeah, Dale's going to be there as well. So there'll be the usual faces. And hey, if you're on your own, come sit out. Come sit one next to us. That's the whole purpose of the women's game. Don't be afraid to come alone.
Yeah.
You'll meet friends. So there we're gone. But has enjoyed it, Josh?
Absolutely, yeah. It's been a blast. Thanks for having me. And I'm looking forward to the game. Finally, a home game. And I'm excited to see where we'll
We'll get you on Joe's vlog. We'll get you on ours as well. And
Yeah,
we'll get
yeah.
a little recap. We'll get you on as well.
Yeah.
Enjoyed that?
Oh, loved it. Always a pleasure to sit with Josh. Any we're travelling contingency who come from further afield, it's lush to hear from them. It's lush to see the enthusiasm, the love they've got for the clubs, the passion. So I kind of enjoyed this one a bit more. Thanks to Josh, I do admit that. So cheers, Josh.
Cheers.
Appreciate it.
Check out Stocks FC, the QR code once more to get your free 5 loans. Thank you also to Costa Wallsend as well, as Joe's been waving to everyone that walks past.
Yeah.
Like a local celebrity, isn't he? But that's it from the 3 of us. We'll see you very soon here on the NUFC Women's Podcast.